Right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for being here on time. As you can see from the screen, we are talking about franchises and scaling your franchise, how to build a bigger franchise, how to make it hit its potential, to reach its limit, to be one of the successful franchisees of the pack. So without any further delay, let's talk about these franchises. So let's move to the next screen. So let's have a look at the agenda. This is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about why would you franchise? It's something that isn't really that well known in the UK. People seem to either know about franchises or they don't. But in comparison to somewhere like the USA, where franchising is much, much, much more socially acceptable and prevalent, everybody seems to know about franchising. Whereas in the UK, it's not quite as well known. So we're going to look into why franchise and what a sort of typical franchise structure would be. From that, we're going to look into the benefits of franchising and why people make the choice to go into a franchise. And then we're going to look into expanding new territory. So I'm going to make sure that we're all on the same page, we're all at the same level of understanding, and then we'll look at expanding into new territories. But also, if you look at traditional franchise models, and we'll get into this a little bit later on, but if you look at traditional franchise models, the reason that you would expand into a new territory is because you want to increase your potential turnover. You want to increase your potential turnover and therefore have economies of scale and potentially increase your profit margin as well. Now, a different way of doing that would be to add revenue streams to your existing business. Now, we'll look at this later. This is somewhere that traditional franchises fall down, but with a couple of the options that I'm going to show you, with some of the things that we do here at Sourced, then you have different options to increase your turnover without having to go through that costly process of adding territories to your existing territory. And then we're going to look into building your ideal lifestyle and how you can do that through franchising and how that's more secure as well through franchising, just to give you a bit of a heads up as to the kind of perspective that we're going to have on franchising. So franchising as a whole in the UK has the annual turnover in the industry is 19.1 billion pounds. So I say that it's not that well known in comparison to the USA. Absolutely it isn't, but it's still a huge industry. There are still some incredibly big brands that are operating in the UK and are very successful in the UK that you might not realize are franchised businesses. Annual revenues per franchisee around £400,000 on an average. Around 1,000 franchisors. So the franchisor, just to clear up a little bit of jargon, just as we go on, the franchisors are the HQ of that franchise business. So when you mention franchising in the UK, the probably the most prevalent brand that you're going to come across is McDonald's. McDonald's are a very, very well-known franchise operation. So McDonald's HQ and McDonald's the brand would be the franchisor. And then each of the individual restaurants, and in some case, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 restaurants are owned by the same franchisee, are operated by the franchisees. So they buy into that business. They buy the systems and processes. They buy into the brand and the marketing pot that they contribute to, and they buy into that is provided by McDonald's HQ, the franchisor. So as you would imagine, with 1,000 franchisors, there are many, many more franchisees because you need a lot of franchisees in order to contribute to those marketing pots, contribute to the systems, to the processes, to the technology that the franchisors put their money into to provide for the franchisees. So 50,000 franchise outlets in the UK. And that, on average, well, that as a rough idea, is providing 561,000 people with employment in the UK. So it is still a big operation. It is still something that is a huge part of the UK economy. However, what I found, and this was before I became part of a business that franchises, what I found is when you go somewhere like America and you talk about a franchise business and you tell somebody, I'm going to start a franchise. Then they go, oh, great. Okay, let's talk about it. Let's find out about what you're doing. Let's find out about the niche. Let's find out about your market. Let's find out about why you chose that franchise business over another franchise business. Whereas in the UK, the kind of perspective that you have is, I'm gonna start a franchise. Oh, why don't you just do it on your own? You know, that long-standing saying that we have in the UK is that we're a nation of shopkeepers. We want to do things ourselves. We want to take control. We want to do things ourselves. But actually, when you look at franchising and you look at not only growing your initial territory, not only growing your initial business, but then increasing that and growing into new territories or adding new revenue streams, then there are options out there that give you that freedom to be entrepreneurial, to build your business, to build your ideal lifestyle, but without feeling restricted from the franchisor. 89% of franchisees report on being profitable. And again, that's in the UK over in a survey that was done. And I haven't referenced the survey, but I've still got the details on my computer. So I will send out in the email that we send out after this, I'll send out the details of where I've got these statistics from. So looking at the kind of typical structures of a franchise. So here you can see, and I think you can see my cursor when I'm going through this presentation. Here you can see that big office building at the top is the franchisor, and the franchisor has franchisees who it has brought on board. The franchisees have opted to be part of that franchisor's business because they like the brand, they like the product, they want to sell the product that the franchisor is offering, and they think they're going to be successful and they're going to make money, essentially, because everybody here is here to be successful. In terms of payments, because that relationship is not a free relationship in either direction, typically, and obviously this changes from one franchisor to the next because this is not prescriptive, but typically you would have an initial fee that the franchisee pays the franchisor. You would then have regular monthly payments that the franchisee pays the franchisor, and you would probably have, in most cases, some degree of profit share. So the franchisee makes money by operating the business in accordance with the franchisor's rules and marketing regulations and everything. And then the profit that the franchisee makes is then shared between the franchisor and the franchisee. And this can be whatever the profit share is deemed to be in the contract, 0.1%, 1%. In some cases, I've seen it from offered from other franchisors, 30% of the profit goes to the franchisor. And if you think about it, if you're thinking about becoming a franchisee in any industry, you're going to be thinking, well, you know, this isn't right. Why would I'm the one that's putting in the hard work every day from week to week to week, from year to year to year. Why would I want to share my profit? Well, actually, it makes sense that you're sharing your success with the franchisor, because that means that the franchisor is incentivized to make sure that you have ongoing success, rather than just taking a flat fee from you. Because if they're taking a flat fee, where is their incentive to offer you better products, to offer you higher profit margins, to offer you anything that is going to increase the amount of business that you can do? And then in trade-off for that money that you're paying to the franchisor offers you a package of goods. So in that package of goods, you could have your branding materials, you could have access to a marketing team, you could have technology that you can use exclusively that isn't available anywhere else on the market. You could have marketing. The marketing team at the HQ might be growing the brand, which means that's going to increase the number of sales that you have because more people are aware of the brand, so more people come to you for that product. And that's all provided by the marketing team. In that package of goods, you might get support, you might get leads, customer leads. It's a huge amount of stuff that franchisor can offer you in order to help you be successful. So essentially, what are the benefits of franchising? So in franchising, you have an established system. So you go into a franchise and that franchisor should be able to show you success that has been achieved by people that have come to them in a similar position to you, that have got some money to invest in that product, in that service, and they want to make money. That franchisor should be able to show you people that have done it, followed their systems, followed their processes, and made money out of it. So the system is established. And then you can model their success, right? Because when you're looking at the way that other people have done it, yes, there's going to be parameters by which they have to stick to in order to build their business. But then there will be other ways. There'll be other marketing methods. There'll be other things that that individual franchisee has brought into their business in order to help them grow. And you will have access to that teamwork, to that wider group of people who are all moving in the same direction, which is making their individual franchise a success. So you're part of that team, and then you can do the same for other people. And then you've got a community of people who are all pulling in the same direction. Whereas obviously, if you go it alone, you might not have that same community, or certainly not a similar community where you're all so similarly aligned, and so and where from one person to the next you can compare and contrast very directly because you're selling the same product, you're operating under the same brand. And good franchisors, what good franchisors should do is put you guys together as often as they possibly can so that you can all learn from each other. A good franchisor isn't there to just stand in front of everybody and tell them how to do absolutely everything. A good franchisor should also be listening to the way that their teams are running their businesses and where people are finding success from one day to the next. And then they should spread that information around everybody so everybody can be just as successful. Then not only do you get that established system, that plan, but then you get support to implement the plan. And that support might come in a couple of forms. It might come in the form of training. So you might have initial training when you join that franchise, and then you might have ongoing support. And in our case, for example, we have unlimited ongoing support that we offer our franchisees. So whenever they need help at implementing the plan, at growing their business, they can pick up the phone, they can drop an email, they can drop a WhatsApp, and they can talk to their support person about ways of moving forward and ways that they can increase the chances that they're going to be successful. And then obviously you get the package of goods. That package of goods, which changes from one franchise to the next, as to exactly what you get: documents, contracts, technology, leads, support, training, all of that stuff that you get as part of the package that you've purchased from your franchisor. And then generally, what you would hope is that all of those things that are put together come at a lower cost than if you were going it alone. I'm just going to have a quick look at the Q&A. Okay, so yeah, that comes at a lower cost than going it alone. Now, I did a survey a couple of years ago. I haven't got this slide with me because it's not particularly relevant for this webinar, but I will share it with you now as an example. The cost of going it alone versus the cost of being part of our franchise was something like 100 times greater if you went it alone. So that's just an example. I'm not going to share the exact details with you because I can't remember off the top of my head. It's something that I did a couple of years ago, but roughly 100 times more month on month to go it alone than to be part of a team and to be working with other people who are all pulling in the same direction. So big difference. Essentially what franchising does for you, and this is why it's so popular in the USA, is that it provides a fast track for you. It provides you a much faster route to get to success. Now, I'm going to give you a direct example of what this looks like, because we've got when I first started, there wasn't a property franchise like this available. And I first started in property roughly about 15 years ago. So when I first started, let me show you. I wanted to do a specific property strategy. I first started investing in property and I was frustrated. I was frustrated because I'd put a huge amount of equity into buying houses and I was making a very low amount of profit from one month to the next. So I started to educate myself at the different property strategies. And there was one called rent to rent. And that rent to rent property strategy was fairly new at the time. There was one book on rent to rent that was available on the market. No training courses, just one book on rent to rent. So I read that book, and there were massive holes in that book. It wasn't in any way like a systemized process that you should follow. It was just like an overview of what rent to rent was. So I read that book, and then I tried to implement that strategy. And it took me 12 months 12 months of estate agents telling me that what I was doing was illegal, even though it wasn't. 12 months of people saying no, 12 months of rejection, 12 months of sending letters out every single week to try and have conversations with people that ended up going absolutely nowhere. And so I spent those 12 months absolutely 100% convinced that I was doing the right thing, but obviously pretty frustrated that I wasn't getting anywhere. So the process and the strategy that I had over those 12 months was to, if I got the same answer twice, then my process was wrong. So if I asked an estate agent a specific question and I got the same negative response twice, then I needed to either not ask the estate agent or I needed to change the question. But I needed to change my process because I'd got the same negative response twice. Over those 12 months, my process changed completely because I was constantly evolving, constantly making it better, constantly trying to get the desired outcome out of the estate agent. So that was 12 months that took me. When I got to the point at the end of 12 months, I had a process and I had a set of guidelines that I would use when I was having conversations with estate agents that worked really, really well. And in the next 6 months, I actually took on 6 properties. So 12 months, 0 success. The next 6 months, I got 6 properties that were brought on board. Now, the training that we offer at Sourced for the Rent to Rent HMO course is specifically based on that process that I developed over 12 months of getting the door slammed in my face and being told no time and time again. And that process is now the backbone of our training course, the backbone of our Rent to Rent HMO blueprint. And therefore, for all of our franchisees that come on board, if they want to operate in the rent to rent HMO strategy, they get that fast track. They don't have to go through those 12 months of failure that I went through, because they get access to the finished article. They get access to an algorithm that works out whether a rent to rent deal will make money just by cherry picking details out of Rightmove or out of Zoopla. They get access to that straight away. They get access to the scripts that will tell them what to say to the estate agent. They get access to the documents that were used to secure the property with the landlord, and they get access to the letters that are written out to send to landlords if estate agents won't go any further. That is an example of how fast tracking through franchising can help somebody make money much quicker than if they were going it alone. Because if you're going it alone for all of that time and putting that time and effort into it, it's obviously going to be much, much, much more expensive than fast tracking yourself and paying a small fee every month in order to have access to all of that IP. Now, here at Source, we know about franchising because we have a couple of different franchises. We have Source Living, and you can become a Source Living partner, and that is basically starting and growing a letting agency, or you can become a Source Property partner, and that is property investment and helping people to build their own portfolios. So one is much more of a set process, building a business, which is Source Living, and the other one is much more entrepreneurial and based on investing in property, which is the Source Property partner. I'm just going to have a quick look at the Q&A because I think a couple of people might have asked some questions. Okay. Somebody just thought they were on a different webinar, so I've just answered that. Right, so we've got Source Living, we've got Source Property. So the packages that we offer on the left-hand side, this is the package for the Source Living franchise, and it includes all of these things. And then on the right-hand side, the Sourced Property franchise contains all of these things. Now, I'll skip over them really quickly. This isn't the point of the webinar, but I'll skip over them pretty quickly. So for Source Living, for example, they've got a unique FlexiLet system. So that is their computer system that manages all their rentals, all their lettings, and that can include normal property rentals, HMOs, and serviced accommodation. They've got a huge amount of prop tech that supports and basically replaces back office staff for all of their franchisees. So instead of having a huge number of staff who are doing your bookkeeping and are doing your tenancy management and calling local contractors because things have gone wrong in houses, we've replaced all of that with prop tech, which means that it's much easier for these guys to run a much smaller, much more efficient office to provide the same high level of customer care to the tenants. They've obviously got support to help people grow their businesses. They've got compliance training, discounted landlord leads, comprehensive lettings training, portfolio funding, which we're going to get to in a little while. And then they've got very, very streamlined processes to help their franchisees understand and manage all the way through that lettings process. So that's the package that is available for Sourced Living franchisees. For the Source Property franchisees, we've got comprehensive training strategies, we've got strategy forums. So the comprehensive training strategies that we offer in property investment would last for 4 weeks. So a session once a week for 4 weeks. And then 2 weeks after that, we run what we call a forum. And we invite everybody in the franchise to come and discuss that property strategy in a forum. So exactly like I said, we're getting our guys together so that they can talk about how they're going to move forward. One of them might have made this discovery that means that they can be much more successful, but nobody else knows about it. So we encourage them to come together in these forums and share information, share what's working, what's not working, hurdles, how they overcame those hurdles, and so on and so on. We also help our franchisees analyze every single property that they like the look of. So they want to move forward with a property, we'll help them analyze that property. We'll give them business support. We also have a phone app that they can generate investor leads from. We have sourced auctions, we have documents and contracts, we have property investment software, like a CRM system, like something we call Landy is the name of this program in-house. And that basically means that franchisees can hover over a property, it can tell them the address, and it potentially can tell them the owner of the property. And that's all included within the price. It can tell them whether there's any planning on the property, and it can tell them what the address of that property is. So if they need to send them letters, they can see exactly what the address is, so they can move that forward. We also generate leads for these franchisees as well. So we have a lead generation system which is based on algorithms. We data scrape, we run all of these properties through algorithms, and then we send them to our franchisees. So really strong packages. I'm just going to quickly check on the Q&A section. Done. They're internal questions, so I'm not going to answer them live. I will answer them afterwards. Okay, so why non-franchise businesses fail? So expanding into new territories. When you're expanding into new territories, what that means from a franchise perspective in general is when you start a franchise, you are usually based on a location or based in a location, like a postcode territory, and you have the right to operate your business within a postcode territory. Now, so take McDonald's, for example. So McDonald's is a fixed location and they can operate exactly there. Now, if they want to, if they want to extend into a new franchise territory, then they have to buy a new restaurant. So at that point, they're essentially starting again in a new territory, and they have a bit of an idea as to whether that second restaurant is going to be profitable or not, but they're still taking quite a big chance that that second restaurant is going to perform as well as the first one did, because obviously they're only going to buy a second one if the first one is performing well. And that's a big risk. That is a big risk. And that's why some franchises, when they move into new territories, can fail. Now, why non-franchise businesses fail? So if you were going to start up on your own, one of the things that we see time and time again is people spread themselves so thin that they don't give themselves any chance of success in a specific area. Because when you start, you just want revenue. You just want to start to see money coming into your bank account. And you think that it's a logical way to think about the problem, that if you go to many, many places, you're much more likely to have some money coming in. Whereas really, one of the reasons that franchises work so well in this area is that postcode area that the franchise has given you is sufficient for you to be successful. And you shouldn't need to go into different territories. They're telling you that territory is big enough because they can see that other people have been successful in similarly sized territories, which means that you can be much more focused and actually increase your chances of being successful. So to start off with, focusing your business into that territory and focusing on the products and services that you're offering will help you increase your chances of being successful. Most franchise businesses are based on postcode territories, especially those that are a little bit more movable than a McDonald's restaurant, but they're based on postcode territories. And what the perspective that you should have is to establish yourself in that postcode territory, scale yourself in that postcode territory, and then dominate that postcode territory. Other people have done it using the same franchise business that you're going to be trying to do it in. And so there's no reason why you can't do it. That's my mindset. If somebody else has done it, then I should be able to do it as well. And then once you have established and scaled and dominated that one territory, at that point, you can look to expand and you can look at your options for expanding. Because like I said before, it shouldn't just be to buy another postcode territory because there is an element of risk around that. So two of the ways that we help our guys, and you might see this from other franchises, I'm not sure, obviously there's over 1,000 franchisors in the UK, so there'll be a number of different options, but two of the ways that we help our franchisees scale their business with Source Living is through portfolio funding, and through Source Property is with strategy upgrades, neither of which requires them to buy a new territory. We're just increasing the amount of turnover that they can make within their existing territory when they're ready to. So let's have a look at them in turn so you can understand what the opportunities are and potentially what other people are going to be offering you. So Source Living portfolio funding. So you come on board, you buy into a letting agency, you operate your letting agency, but just down the road, there's another letting agency, and the person that owns that letting agency is ready to retire. Right, they've run that letting agency very successfully for a number of years, but now is the time to retire, and they don't want to hand it over to anybody in their family. So what do? They look to basically sell that business on, sell their lettings book onto somebody else. So what we can do here at Source is we can help the franchisees purchase that other lettings agency. So Jason did exactly this in Hull. The book that he bought was roughly 220 units. And what he did with his letting agency was he added staff in order to help him. So basically he scaled that business very, very quickly from one day to the next by taking on 220 additional rental units. Now, the loan that he's taken out from Sourced in order to pay for that increase in portfolio size is paid for by the portfolio. So the rental income that portfolio already made was sufficient to pay for the additional staff, pay for the loan that he's taken out, and also provide more profit for Jason's letting agency. Now, what you could then do, if you did want to purchase more postcodes and increase the geographical spread that you have, is you could look for postcode portfolios that are available in different postcode territories. And when you take out that loan in order to purchase that postcode territory, the money that you're generating from the lettings book that you've bought in that additional postcode territory could also fund the postcode territory that you're buying. So essentially, you're using your business to expand your business, and it's not taking any additional money out of your pocket. So that's one of the ways, and you wouldn't have to do that, of course. You could operate that initial book within, so long as it's within your postcode territory, you could just operate it there and just increase your profit without the additional cost. But that's one way that you can expand into new territories using a franchise system. Now looking at the source property, the more investment side of the business, strategy upgrade is the option here. So a strategy upgrade, what do we mean by that? When most people come on board and they want to start investing in property, the first thing that they need to work on is cash flow. Most people need cash flow to start off with because they want to leave their job or they want to supplement their income, or they just want regular income coming in from investing in property. So what we do is we help them establish themselves with a regular cash flow. They can build up the money that they have to invest. And when they've built up the money that they have to invest, they can start to invest in strategies that are going to be a bit more expensive to get into. For example, flips and refurbs. If you want to do a flip, you're going to need to have some money in your pocket in order to do that flip. So they come on board and they do something that is focusing on cash flow. Then they move into something that is a small development kind of project, like a residential flip. And if you do enough of them, you're going to build up that amount of money that you have sitting in your pocket to then build into bigger and bigger and bigger projects, until you get to the point where your projects could have net profit of 7 figures. We've got one on the go right now, which has, as an example. So this is all available to you under that initial franchise, because under our initial franchise, we offer training on all of these different property strategies, and we help our franchisees come up with a plan, a workflow to get through those property strategies and scale up and scale up and scale up and scale up. Again, all within the same territory, all within the same area, but they're upskilling themselves and building the amount of money that they have in their pockets, but also giving themselves access to higher and higher and higher profit margins. As always, we start with cash flow. That's one of the other things that I think property in particular suffers from if you're not part of a franchise business, because we look at property, even if you're just increasing the size of your own portfolio, we look at that as a business. It has to make sense. It has to make sense, and it has to be structured, and it has to be controlled, and it has to be planned, just like every other business. Whereas we see some people who come into property and they think, oh, it's property. It's very entrepreneurial. It's something that we can just, go out there, talk to estate agents, we'll find a deal, we'll get some funding, we'll make it work. It can't be that slapdash. It needs to be planned, and it needs to be much more considered in order to make sure that you're going to be successful. So they're going to start with cash flow, and then they're going to move into small conversions. And then after they've done small conversions, guess what? They're going to increase that into large conversions. And the larger the deal, yes, it's going to take longer to get through that deal, but it means that the profit amount that you get at the end of that deal should grow and grow and grow. And it also means that you're increasing the amount of expertise and experience you have through property to help you deal with those bigger and bigger and bigger deals. Now, what we offer and how we help our franchisees go through that is the guidance of our support team and the funding that we can offer to help them buy properties. We have an in-house funder called Source Capital, and Source Capital will fund up to 100% of the purchase price and up to 100% of the works costs for projects that our franchisees would like to purchase. I'm just going to check the Q&A section again. Okay, yeah, still the same ones about the franchise internal stuff. So I'll leave them because it's not relevant for everybody. So adding revenue streams, traditional franchising models can suffer because they're quite restrictive. They've got a very, very stringent operating model, and you're not allowed to deviate outside of that operating model. And therefore, the only way that you could expand your territory is by buying another territory. And you might only be able to do that without any pre-existing evidence that somebody has operated successfully within that territory. So traditional franchising models can suffer. Having the flexibility in that package, the way that we have with both of our franchise offerings, means that it gives the franchisees a level of security. So, for example, what I mean by security is under the Source Living franchise, they are the only letting agency franchise in the country which allows you to manage normal traditional lets, HMOs, or serviced accommodation, and they have the software all included in that initial franchise fee to allow you to do that. Now, if you take up some buy-to-lets and you make the profit from the buy-to-lets, and then you take on some HMOs, and then you take on some serviced accommodation, if any one of those one markets dips, you've still got the other two markets to provide that income for you and to provide that financial security. Whereas a normal letting agency would only have serviced accommodation, or would only have HMO, or would only have normal buy-to-lets. And if their market goes down, that's 100% of their income that is going to be jeopardized by that dip in the market. Flexibility in the package also gives the franchisees opportunity to explore new things, opportunity to generate new revenue streams. It gives them the opportunity to increase the amount of turnover that they're getting. So for Source Living, like I just said, they've got the multi-let property management, and for Source Property, they've got the strategy growth planning and the support that comes with that from their support team. And of course, either one of those franchises, like we've had with numerous franchisees, can add the other franchise to it. So some people prefer to start off with Source Living, and they want to build a letting agency. And when they get to a certain size and they've got the regular income coming in, they can then buy a Source Property franchise, and they can start to look to monetize investment property that they own themselves, not just doing it for other people. And the other way around, Source Property people can, and we'll get to Jason in just a second, they can build properties, and then they can take on a Source Living franchise in order to manage the lettings for those properties as they sell them off to other investors, other landlords. So they can offer solutions which then increases the number of revenue streams that they're generating, and it ultimately increases their turnover, their profit, and their profit margin. So we're going to look at two specific franchisees, Jason Kay and Jamie Webb. So Jason Kay bought a Sourced Property franchise. He then found a commercial conversion called Binding House in Hull. So this was a big commercial conversion, roughly 20 individual flats in this commercial conversion. And he borrowed the money from Sourced to fulfill this commercial conversion, built out the flats, sold on the flats. And just to be absolutely transparent, there are two commercial units downstairs as well. So he did that. And then he moved on to another project, which was Hadley House, which is a 24-bed HMO conversion. Again, he did the training, he had the support, he used the deal analysis from the support team. He bought Hadley House, which was a care home, and converted it into a 24-bed HMO. He then saw an opportunity to buy a Source Living franchise because he wanted to manage those 24 bedrooms for the investors that were buying those, who bought the units in Hadley House. So he started managing Hadley House and the 24 bedrooms there. He started to take on external lettings opportunities from outside of Hadley House, and then we helped him buy those additional 220 units, which he added to his letting agency portfolio. Now, and Jason's only been, in fact, on the 1st of April, Jason will have been with Sourced for 4 years. Now, he doesn't work in the office on Mondays or Fridays. He has the staff in the office to manage the lettings 5 days a week. He only goes in there 3 days a week. And actually, Steve and I, the CEO, we went down to see Jason not very long ago, and he was talking about moving abroad and emigrating and leaving the business in the UK operating to take care of itself. Now looking at Jamie Webb. Jamie Webb started deal packaging when he came on board with Source, so finding deals and then selling them on to investors. He left full-time education and moved into property full-time, and moved into property for on a full-time basis when he became successful at deal packaging and selling them on. He started to build his relations extremely successfully with investors And then he started a JV with investors on bigger projects. So larger conversions, title splits, that kind of thing, all based in and around London. And now what Jamie does, he looks after his property business, but then around school holidays, he'll take quite a bit of time off so that he can spend it with his family, giving him that quality of life that he has been looking for, which just isn't available in standard full-time employment. So what property does is property gives you choices, and franchising should also give you choices. It should give you choices as to the direction that you want to take your business, and it should support you at taking it in that direction, because there should be an element of flexibility in order to maximize the opportunity that's in front of you. So property gives you choices, Sourced facilitates that success. Now, if you have any questions at all about the webinar or about anything that we offer here at Sourced, or any other franchises and other ways that they can offer you flexibility and can give you opportunity instead of being restrictive and instead of stifling your creativity to grow your business, I'm happy to have a chat with you. If you would like more information, please get in touch with us at info@sourced.co, or just have a look at our website, www.sourced.co, and you'll see not only the franchising opportunities that we have on there, but also a lot of the other products and services that we can offer in and around property here at Sourced. So thanks very much for watching. Really appreciate your time. I hope you have a fantastic rest of the day. I hope it's as sunny where you are as it is where I am here in beautiful Warrington. But thanks very much for spending your Wednesday afternoon with me, and hopefully I'll speak to you soon. Cheers. Bye-bye.